Welcome to the Peter Leg Podcast, where you're empowered to lead, inspire, and influence. Now, here's your host and mentor, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed speaker, and community leader, Dr. Peter Leg.
The weather is beautiful today, and so are my guests. I'm very delighted to have you here. Lenora Sally, Information and Referral Specialist of Seniors Service Society, and Sarah Luciana from Active Aging Society. Welcome, ladies, and we're so thankful you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks for having us.
Sarah, can you tell me a little about Choose to Move program and what the benefits are?
Yeah, of course. Before I get into the Choose to Move program, I just want to set the stage a little bit. Choose to Move was designed to address the physical inactivity epidemic, as well as the loneliness epidemic that many seniors in BC and other parts of the world are facing. We know that older adults are not meeting their physical activity guidelines, the 150 minutes of physical activity each week that we know have protective effects on our health. And we know that older adults are spending more time alone and are feeling more isolated. And this also has deleterious effects on their health. So Choose to Move was born out of the active aging research team at UBC to address these two dynamics that older adults are facing. It's based on the best research about how to support older adults' health and mobility in community. And it's delivered through our organization, the Active Aging Society. We've received investments from the BC Ministry of Health to implement and scale the program across the province. So we've had the pleasure of working with organizations like the Senior Services Society to make it available. But in essence, Choose to Move, although it's very focused on physical activity, it's not actually an exercise class itself. It's a motivation and support program. Choose to Move is a program that runs over the course of 3 months, and participants get to meet in their community, whether it's at the Senior Services Society or a neighborhood house or their recreation center. They get to meet with their activity coach and their peers to learn about the importance of staying physically and socially active, what's available in their community to support those kinds of activities, and to identify their goals and what motivates them to keep aligned with their goals. At the Active Aging Society, we aim to promote seniors' physical, social, and mental health in British Columbia and beyond. And Choose to Move is our signature program. It addresses the physical inactivity and loneliness epidemic amongst our older adult population. And it's probably no surprise to your listeners, Peter, that we have an aging demographic. By 2051, 1 in 4 Canadians will be over the age of 65. And in BC, it's expected that we'll reach that milestone 10 years sooner. There are two dynamics that we're acutely attuned to at the Active Aging Society and through the Choose to Move program, and that's social isolation and loneliness and physical inactivity. So right now we know that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 5 men in Canada feel lonely at least some of the time. And we know that as we get older, our social network decreases with age because of changes in work and family dynamics, maybe changes in our mobility and our ability to get out and engage in community, and our friend group and composition changes. And research shows that loneliness increases your risk of death by about 26%. And loneliness is worse for you than being obese and is equal to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And there are all kinds of associated health risks of being lonely. On top of that, high blood pressure, depression, and increased risk of dementia. And with respect to physical inactivity, we knew that through our programming, we had to address the fact that over 85% of older adults are not meeting physical activity guidelines, that 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise that we need to engage in every week to keep well and to keep active, to keep mobile. Physical inactivity is actually the 4th leading risk factor of global mortality. That's on the heels of mortality associated with high blood pressure, high glucose, and tobacco use. And we know that from a recent World Health Organization report that in Canada, we'll see $564 million in direct healthcare costs annually associated with physical activity. So our organization, the Active Aging Society, along with the UBC Active Aging Research Team, devised Choose to Move to address these tensions, to address these the physical activity and loneliness epidemic that we know is happening amongst our seniors in Canada. And
tell me, the Choose to Move program, how does it work?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is a unique program. It is not an exercise program. It is more like a motivation and support program, like a coaching program. It runs over the course of 12 weeks. It's evidence-based, evidence-backed. We know it works to increase physical activity and decrease loneliness and support participants to navigate resources in their community to get better access to those activities that will make us feel well and healthy and connected. The Choose to Move program is facilitated by a trained activity coach like Leonore. The training is provided by our team, and the program is actually the whole program is supported by our team over that 12-week period. It encompasses, or I guess it's comprised of two main components: a one-on-one consultation with their activity coach, where participants get to set up an action plan and goals based on activities that are of most interest to them, whether that's walking or learning how to access the local pool, or joining the luncheon club at their local neighborhood house. So that one-on-one consultation, they get a tailored program plan for themselves. And then over that 12-week period, they meet with that activity coach and the other participants in their cohort through motivational group meetings. And in those group meetings, they get to share about the progress on their goals. They get to learn about health topics like nutrition and dementia and falls prevention and even grief and loss, if that's a topic of importance to that cohort. The activity coach is supported to adapt the program to the interests of their participants. And I think Leonore has done an exceptional job at the Senior Services Society of BC in tailoring the program to meet her clients' needs and to build on the strengths of her organization goals.
So what kinds of things that you would be allowed to share on this broadcast have been impactful and have virtually, what I hear you saying, have changed the lives of many men and women that come through your program?
Yeah, I mean, we, again, as I mentioned, we collaborate very closely with the UBC Active Aging Research Team, headed up by Drs. Joni Sims-Gould and Heather McKay. And along with their research team, they have evaluated the impacts of Choose to Move on older adult mobility and social outcomes. And we know that older adults who participate in Choose to Move are less lonely, and they increase their daily physical activity levels. And that helps maintain mobility. We know that physical activity and mobility are inextricably linked. And we know that when we are able to maintain our mobility, we're able to stay independent, maintaining a higher quality of life in community, staying out of healthcare services, out of emergency rooms, out of long-term care for as long as possible, and living in a life that is more fulfilling. And so those are the research-backed outcomes of the Choose to Move program. But I have the pleasure of working closely with Leonore and Allison at the Senior Services Society, and we hear through their experiences in delivering the program the beneficial impacts on people's lives. You know, being able to walk up a set of stairs and visit a neighbor in a way that wasn't possible beforehand. being able to access a swim pass at the local community center because their activity coach, the guide of the Choose to Move program, was able to help them identify different funding supports to enable them to, without financial barriers, access programs in their community. So there are many beneficial impacts of Choose to Move felt by the older adult participant themselves, and as well the organizations who are able to address the desire of their patrons and clients to live a more healthy life.
So Sarah, if you're not physically fit, or you want to get physically fit, how do you choose to move, and how do you register for it?
Right. So you don't have to be physically fit to register for Choose to Move. Like I said, Choose to Move is not an exercise program. There's no expectation that you're going to show up in spandex and lift a bunch of barbells. It's a program where you're connecting with others in your community who want to get more active, who want to sit more or sit less and move more. It's a program where you come together to learn about healthy lifestyle behaviors, how to eat well, how to prevent falls and fractures, to learn about brain health. And to register, you can go to our website. You can find out where locations are across the province. I can provide that for you now. It's choosetomove.ca/locations. To learn where we're offering it right now, and all of the organizations, big and small, have a very easy a mechanism to support interested people to register.
So you've hosted 2 Choose to Move groups. What have you learned from this experience, ladies?
I'll pass that over to Leonor.
Thank you. Yes, I have. I've coached 2. And certainly all the things that Sarah has already said, the participants have come away with. But I think a real key thing for me, which came out of the 2 groups that I coached, they were older adults in the sense that most of them were in their mid-70s to early 80s. We actually chose to have the Choose to Move program in their building. We went to them rather than have them go out into the community, because many of them were not physically active enough or able enough to go into community, but they realized that in fact they needed to continue and to have some kind of activity and exercise in their life. I would say that the main thing was that those that participated that had a real sense of purpose were more likely to take better care of themselves, to become engaged in a more healthy behavior and stick to it. And examples of a couple of the members that were there, one lady who really wanted to stay engaged with her family. That was her purpose, her family. She loved her family. She wanted to continue to stay engaged with her family, with her grandkids, with her great-grandkids, and wanted to maintain her energy and physical levels so she could do that. And when she joined the group, and she got about using a walker, so she had a little bit of limitations, but she joined the group and then began to participate in the building. Somebody was conducting a few exercise programs. She started doing that once a week, then she went twice a week and 3 times a week. And it really changed not only physically, but her attitude towards it. And she was able to continue to engage with her family and participate and see them regularly. Another lady who was an artist, and she has rheumatoid arthritis, and she does beautiful artwork. She does portraits of dogs. She does it mainly for her family and friends, but was finding that it was more and more difficult for her because of the pain, and choosing to her own exercises and activities that she could continue. But what also came up in the group, and it was really interesting, is one woman, even though she realized, yes, it's important to stay physically active and engaged, she commented in one of the meetings saying, I have no reason to get out of bed in the morning. And she didn't have any close family members. She had friends. She was participating a little bit, but there was no real reason for her, nothing that she was really passionate about. So as a group, and as Sarah says, when you come together as a group, you start to connect and you share your ideas and your experiences. And we talked about the importance of having a purpose and identifying that purpose. And it's all about, what do you care about? What do you love? What do you want to do? What interests you? And as we started to discuss these things, everyone sort of came up and said, you know, what I would love to do, I've always wanted to volunteer for Salvation Army, one lady said. And a couple of weeks later, she came back to the class and she said, I've joined up. I'm now a soldier of the Army. And she was going twice a week, involved, volunteering. And it really, she just lit up. She totally changed. Another gentleman who participated in his church, and he was also very active, and he actually did his exercises, but it felt like he was just putting in time. And he said, you know, I've always wanted to learn about spirituality. And he went to the library, got some books, and then actually connected with two members of his church that were interested in the same thing. So they formed this group where they were starting to study all about spirituality. A third lady wanted to tell her story. She said, I've had an interesting life. She said, I've lived in lots of interesting places and I've had interesting jobs. And her big drawback was, I want to write a book, but I've never written a book. And so from the group, they're saying, well, tell your story. Tell it one story at a time, one memory at a time, answer one question at a time. At the end, you'll have a book. So she started to do that and engaged with her actually grandkids who were very interested in hearing about her life and her experiences. So through all of that, everybody sort of came away with this real sense of purpose, and they were more committed and more engaged. They actually were following through on the action plans that we had put together in the beginning. But what I also learned, and this is really interesting, is one lady that had joined, and she was very negative from the beginning. She had been in 2 car accidents and was in a lot of pain. Her whole purpose there was really to see how she could manage her pain, but didn't feel that anything was going to help. The plan we had put together for her was walking. That's something she felt she could do. And so for the first few meetings, she didn't engage at all. And I didn't expect she was going to even continue with the program. And about the 4th meeting, she came in, and she had actually gone out for her first walk. And when she was out, she sat on a bench to rest, and she met up with another lady who had been out walking, and they started to talk and connect. And the 3rd time she went out for a walk, they connected again. So she started to develop that friendship. And as Sarah says, that being socially connected is really, really important. And by the end of the program, she came up to me and she said, I really want to thank you. She said, this has been the most grateful, so grateful she was for that experience. She said, and I'm so glad you encouraged me to stay and to continue in the program. She not only made a friend, but she had always volunteered before and felt she couldn't do it any longer. And now she felt stronger, she felt better, she was more engaged, and she had signed up to volunteer for her community program to do peer-to-peer counseling. And the last thing she said, I am just sorry the program's ending. So I think that whole sense of not only a purpose that you're more likely to take better care of yourself and become engaged in healthy behaviors and stick to it, that if you're physically active and if you're socially connected, you're more likely to connect with a sense of purpose.
That's a great story. It is a great story. If someone is interested to become a member of Choose to Move activity coach, how do they do that?
Yeah, well, they can reach out to our organization, the activeagingsociety.org, and go to the tab Become a Partner. And there's an expression of interest form that organizations can fill out, organizational leaders can fill out to indicate their interest. Choose to Move is delivered at no cost to the participants. And through generous investments from the BC Ministry of Health, our organization is able to pay for the activity coach time to deliver the program, to train in and deliver Choose to Move.
If you're allowed to say this, what are the typical age groups?
Yeah, so Choose to Move has focused on people who are over the age of 65, and we know that we need to do better by older adults in our community and create supports that, as Leonore says, like give them a sense of purpose and a sense of belonging, whether it's through volunteering or through making connections with others in their group or the other activities that they choose through the program. But we know that people who have been living a strained life, have lived in poverty, and who have faced, food insecurities and housing insecurities over the course of their lives, have aged at a different rate. So we really support our delivery partners to set those limits on age. Some organizations include people in their 60, as young as 60 or even 55. And we really let the participants themselves self-identify if they need support getting physically active, if they're facing barriers to maintaining mobility and they want to connect more socially and in community, then Choose to Move is the right program for them.
How do people connect with you to help you, whether it's financial or whether it's they've got space in their house, they've got some facility that they can do to help you? How do they do that?
Reach out, fill out that expression of interest form on the activeagingsociety.org website, and we can find a way to partner and connect. And we really are really excited that we have renewed funding from the province to continue the delivery of Choose to Move over the next few years. And I'm really excited to work with more organizations like Leonore's, like the Senior Services Society of BC, to reach older adults in community who maybe are experiencing barriers to accessing health promotion programs. And the early days of our collaboration, the early days of our collaboration, Leonore, were smack dab in the middle of the pandemic, just to make things even more difficult. But we got really creative about how to make Choose to Move available to your clients. And I just, a novel approach that I want to highlight is Leonore and her team's commitment to making Choose to Move available nearly barrier-free. She offered the programming in the places that her participants lived, in the rec rooms and social rooms of the housing complexes that they were living in, because transportation has become a barrier for many people. Even just the cost of transportation, even if they're physically able to make it to a bus stop, can be a barrier to participating. And some people don't feel welcome in all community spaces. They're maybe new Canadians or didn't grow up here and don't really know how to navigate some of the social and recreational services that we have available. So to just get back to your question, Peter, if there are people listening that want to get involved and want to support, contacting the Senior Services Society directly about what they're doing to support seniors, and specific to Choose to Move, contacting the Active Aging Society and reaching out to me directly to find ways that we can marry up some of the resources and ideas that we have to really get older adults and community active and connected.
Lenore, is there any particular need today? I mean, I know there's 1,000 needs, but are there things that a volunteer could do today if they knew it was available? And can you do 5 or 6? Tell me 5 or 6 needs that you have.
Well, I think the most important thing is, we realize that no matter what our age is, we all flourish when we have some regular way of contributing meaningfully, either to others or our community, and we need to feel needed and that we still matter. And I think most importantly is, number one, as Sarah says, connecting older adults with the opportunities and what's available in the community. And it's so individual, and I think volunteering is so individual and what you care about. But if as communities and as organizations and as educational institutions, that we need to continue to contribute those opportunities, to create the opportunities for older people, no matter what their circumstances, whether it's where they live or whether it's in community, so that they can continue to learn and stay engaged and become involved in community. So really I think it's important for us to, and communicate that to them and bring it to them as we did if they can't go out to the community to get it. And I think if you help, once they become engaged, once you start to talk to them about what's really important to them, they will identify their own purpose, right? Mm. And they will seek out opportunities on their own as well.
Yeah, and just to tag on to that, like, broadly speaking, I think we need more supports in the community-based senior service sector around volunteer engagement and management. We do have, a growing population of older adults who have skills and knowledge that could be applied in our community programming and to support broadly the sense of community. And we don't have great we have some mechanisms in place to support that volunteer engagement, but I think continued investment in the organizations and the people that animate those organizations, so to do that volunteer engagement work is really critical. And from our society's standpoint, continued investment in health promoting opportunities for older adults, working upstream from emergency room entry and long-term care facility entry, thinking 10 and 20 years ahead to what we need to stay in place and in community. And community programming is a real cost-effective way of keeping people engaged and active in community and out of higher levels of care.
Do you folks reach out to people, or do they reach to you, or is it both?
It's both. It's both. I mean, our organization supports Senior Services Society of BC and other organizations to expand their recruitment and promotion strategies to make sure that the opportunity to participate and choose to move is widely available to older adults in community who might not yet be connected to that host organization. But certainly, Leonore, like you and your team have a wide range of older adults and different lists that you draw from to promote the program itself.
Right, and basically going to, because we work with a lot of housing providers, and so connecting with them, letting them know that the program is available, going in, speaking to them about the program, doing an introduction for them, those kinds of things. Going again, as Sarah said, going to where they live and offering the program. So we're reaching out constantly for people doing this, and the building managers and housing providers also recognize that need and connect with us in the same way to see what programs are out there that we can offer.
Ladies, I would think this broadcast has a pretty wide appeal. In closing, what specifically could somebody do today is listening to this and watching this? What could they do to help you today?
Again, I think I would go back to, depending on what they're doing, if they're running an organization or a business or involved in community in some way, is recognizing that, once again, creating opportunities, or if they have opportunities, to reach out to us and other organizations, letting them know where they can be engaged and where they can volunteer. Because often, again, I think with many older adults, depending on the age, they're not connected to the internet the same way as you are when younger, they don't have the same ability to find out what's available and what's out there. And so it is, even working with us or working with Sarah at Active Aging Society, letting us know what is available and what they are doing, and creating those opportunities. Particularly, I think about when you think about volunteering and staying active, is intergenerational. I think there's so many opportunities for connecting with youth in the community, and bringing those organizations together with older adults.
I would say, if you know of an organization in your community that could host Choose to Move, get in touch with me. Connect at activeagingsociety.org, or go to our website, activeagingsociety.org/partner, and fill out our expression of interest form. We want to know about more organizations in community that could host Choose to Move, that would have a space that could allocate a bit of staff time for the delivery of the program, who have a unique reach with older adults, especially older adults who are not always able to access health promoting programs. We have an equity priority moving forward. We have, since inception, but moving forward, we want to work with organizations that are serving different ethnic communities and cultural communities, that are supporting low income seniors. We want to work with organizations that support different genders, and geographically, we want to support those organizations that are maybe not in urban centers and have a different set of demands and constraints when it comes to delivering programming to seniors. So we want to work with all different kinds of organizations, and we want to hear from people about who those organizations are and how we can connect.
Ladies, on that note, this has been a full program, so thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. This broadcast is brought to you by Active Aging Society. And thank you, ladies, for your dedication and your commitment, and your the way you've articulated older needs. And we will do this again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for hosting us.
Thank you, Peter.